Well, I have to admit I'm biased. I absolutely love it here. It's beautiful. It's tropical, but it's also a mile high. It's not humid. We're a mile high like Denver. We're on the same latitude as Hawaii. So you'll see the mountains even at this time of year now that the rains have started. The mountains are so green and lush, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. We're on the largest lake in Mexico. So between the altitude and the latitude with Denver and Hawaii and the largest lake, it keeps the area very cool and temperate.
Welcome to the Retirement in Mexico podcast, your guide to a life of sun, sand, and possibility. If you've ever dreamed of spending your golden years under the warm Mexican sun, surrounded by breathtaking beaches, rich culture, and an exciting community, you're in the right place. We're here to guide you every step of the way with expert insights, inspiring stories, and everything you need to know to make your move with confidence. The best chapter of your life is yours to create. Let's do this. Hi, Kristina. Good afternoon.
Hi, Taniel. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, thank you so very much for joining us today for this podcast. You're in Chapala, and let me tell you, I used to go to Chapala when I first moved to Vallarta. A lot of friends in Guadalajara, and they used to take me up there on the weekends. But it's been 15 years since I've been there. So I'm curious what has changed, what's been going on, and what's new in Chapala?
Chapala has changed a lot since you've been here. When I first got here, there were only a couple of stoplights and a few restaurants. That was back in 1993, around there. And it's changed quite a bit. So I would say that it's growing more than you've seen since you've been here. And the traffic is a lot more difficult to get through, and actually became one of the things that I was the most frustrated with, but I've actually found ways to enjoy the traffic a little bit, and I'll tell you more about that later.
So tell our viewers who you are, how you wound up in Chapala, and how you got involved in real estate.
Okay. Well, I came here in 1993. My family moved here, and they started the first homegrown MLS in Mexico. So it's very first one in the entire nation. I know, MLSmexico.com. And then I started working for a company called Focus on Mexico. Focus on Mexico, it's an informational tourism company. So what we would do is boots on the ground experience for people who wanted to come down, get to know the area, see if Mexico made sense for them, because it isn't for everyone, but they were able to come down and ask questions about the medical care and insurance and real estate. And the real estate part of it, I was the real estate liaison with Lake Chapala Real Estate through Focus on Mexico. And so that as a bridge ended up becoming how I became the broker here at Lake Chapala Real Estate. I moved away for 10 years and I went to the US and I worked there, and I became a licensed general contractor. And so I was working in North Carolina, and then I ended up having the opportunity to come back here to Lake Chapala, and I jumped at it because my mom and dad were still here. I absolutely love the community, and I had been here since I was 22. And people say that after time, you don't miss a place so much, you get over it and you move on with your life and where you're planted and all those things. And I think that for me, it was a little bit difficult for me to do that. And people would say, well, why? Why is it so hard for you? Why can't you just be happy here? And I remember thinking it's because I know too much. I know that there's another way that we can live, that we don't have to live this way in the US. And I'm speaking specifically to that. I've never lived in Canada or anywhere else, but as an American, I can say that I never ever got over it. And so when I got the chance to come back here and we were able to buy Lake Chapala Real Estate, I jumped at it. The funny thing about it is we ended up coming back at the very beginning of 2020, right before COVID hit, 2 or 3 weeks before COVID hit. So
good timing.
Yeah, it was fabulous timing. Couldn't have been better.
So you've been in real estate for how long in Chapala now?
So I've been the broker in Lake Chapala now for going on almost 6 years. So
now you said your family, your parents live there. So were they in real estate, or were they just retired in Chapala?
Well, they had the local MLS, and then they do English publications and publicity. So they have the Lake Chapala directory, and they also have a Street Smart. It's a map book. So it has the updated maps and everything from Google Maps and that sort of thing. They've always been really entrepreneurial. They're celebrating their 57th wedding anniversary on Monday.
Wow, that's awesome. What are you guys going to do?
We're going to get together on Saturday and do something special for them, kind of a combination wedding anniversary and Father's Day kind of thing. So as a family, my brothers also live here. So we're all transplants. And yeah.
You said brothers.
Brothers. Yeah.
Are they in the business as well?
Not in real estate. No. One of them has a sourdough bakery with his wife, Vicky, and the other one is a musician.
Wow. Okay, cool. So explain the real estate. Now, I remember like when I was there over 15 years ago, I don't remember seeing any condos. They were just old, beautiful homes. There are a few new construction going on, but mostly they were like traditional older houses. Has that changed significantly?
There's a lot of very contemporary, modern homes being built. Almost every new development, that's what they're catering to, is people who like more contemporary architecture. So it's a lot more squared off instead of, all the arches and palladium windows and things like that. It tends to be, more of that brutalesque architecture where it's just a little bit more modern than anything we had here in the past. So yeah, the architecture is changing. That said, though, what I'm finding, it's interesting. The Tapatíos seem to really resonate with that architecture. But when we get Canadians, Americans, Europeans, they're looking for what a lot of the Mexican people think of as their grandma's house. They're like, oh, I want a nice, clean, new, modern place. But, the foreigners tend to really seek out the arches and things that are more traditional architecture.
It's interesting because we experience similar things that over here. There are a lot of foreigners, Americans, Canadians, mostly coming down here. Granted, there are a lot of, contemporary condos going up, but there are a lot of people that gravitate to the old world Mexico. And whereas the Mexicans buying a second home in Vallarta, they want the ultra modern Miami look. So it's like opposites.
Exactly. And one of the things that I have tried to encourage a few people who do developments and that sort of thing here, when they're in their initial phases, I keep trying to encourage them, consider building something that feels a little bit more colonial. It doesn't have to be a hacienda or enormous, but something that feels a little bit more colonial with arches and just the details that harken back to Mexico. Authentic Mexico, the Talavera tiles and things like that a lot of people from north of the border and other countries, that's what they're looking for, and they're not able to find it in most of the new construction. They have kind of a mix here between modern Mexican construction but it's not what I'm talking about. I don't think it's really what you're talking about either when we're thinking of the more traditional homes. So
question, in Vallarta, it's primarily a condominium market. They build more condos than houses. What's it like in Chapala? Are they building any condos? I don't remember seeing condos 15 years ago in Chapala.
We have condos now, and we've even got some really beautiful lakefront condos. I wouldn't mind living in any of those. But primarily, it seems to be houses in gated communities or little developments that are private. Usually the homes here are 2 bedrooms, 2 bath and maybe for an office or something like that. But that tends to be more typical. So you can find a house over $1 million that's only 2 bedrooms here, which is very different from our market in the U.S.
And you said condos like right on the lake. How many stories are we talking about?
Generally 3 stories is the max that they'll allow you to go in Ajijic because it's a Pueblo Mágico, but we're trying to preserve people's views, which I think is nice, that trying to help people that are behind them and up on the mountainside to keep them from being blocked. Otherwise, I think people would just continue to go up and up and up.
Okay. So 3 stories is the, okay. So you mentioned Ajijic. I remember going to Ajijic. So Ajijic and Chapala, they're like sister regions, right? They border one another. And I remember Ajijic being a lot more artsy and a bit more quiet than Chapala. Is that still the case?
I don't know if I would say that Ajijic is more quiet than Chapala, but it is very artsy here. Art galleries, the murals, the really bright painted houses. And Chapala to me I think it has a prettier Malecón. That's my opinion. And I think people could go to blows over, those kind of statements. So I'll be careful.
Malecón is the boardwalk.
Yeah, I think Chapala has the prettiest boardwalk, but it's more of a family community, much more Spanish. So if you were looking for something that's more of an immersive Spanish-speaking experience with the Mexican people, then Chapala is a better bet. So is Jocotepec or San Marcos. if you are looking for kind of a softer landing as a foreigner who doesn't yet speak the language and wants to be involved in all the activities, the golf course and the Lake Chapala Society, the different art classes and music choirs. There's even several live theaters, I think here, 3 or 4 stage theaters. And those are all in the San Antonio, Ajijic, West Ajijic area.
Right. So, I remember you said there are a lot of like galleries and museums and an art scene in Ajijic. A friend of mine, actually, some of his art work has been displayed in one of the galleries in Ajijic. So,
Really?
Yeah, years ago he was there. He had a whole bunch of new paintings displayed there. So for someone who hasn't been to Lake Chapala and Ajijic, can you explain to us, like, where is it exactly?
So Lake Chapala and Ajijic, as the crow flies, is about 3 hours inland from Puerto Vallarta. It's in the state of Jalisco, as is Puerto Vallarta. So we're just inland a few hours. It's a beautiful drive. And you are having a new highway connecting Guadalajara to Puerto Vallarta. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
That should be finished at some point, right?
Yeah, actually, people have taken that highway from Vallarta to Vallarta, and they said they've made it there in 2.5 hours. And in the old days, well, depending on how fast you drive, I drive a bit slower, but some people, would get to Guadalajara within 4.5 to 5.5 hours, but that's been cut down in half.
Yeah, I have heard that people can get there in 3 hours now with that new highway.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. The drive is gorgeous.
Yeah. It's a beautiful drive. I was on part of that new highway a few years ago, but I think the whole thing is almost completely built. They have a little bit more to go, so it shouldn't take too long. But from Guadalajara to Chapala, I think it took around 45 minutes to an hour. Is that still the case? Or has traffic gotten worse?
Guadalajara to Chapala, yeah, it's still about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. It's from here to the airport is 30 to 40 minutes, depending on where you're leaving from. So, yeah, we have Guadalajara International Airport. It's very close. I think that's one of the reasons the area has grown so much, actually.
Well, it's taken longer for me to go from the Guadalajara airport to my hotel because traffic can be atrocious in Guadalajara during the rush hour.
Rush hour can really do that. Yeah, absolutely.
So for an American Canadian who's never been to Chapala or Ajijic, what can they expect to see, like, day-to-day lifestyle along the lake?
So I want to compare it a little bit to Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta is much faster, I think. This is a slower pace. And I feel like people who have maybe type A personalities will come here and they're not going to be as happy unless they can slow down a little bit and learn to embrace the culture, embrace the people. We joke about our traffic jams being horses and donkeys in the middle of the road.
We have those once in a while in Vallarta too.
I love it. I love Mexico. It's amazing. But up here, because the pace of life is just a lot slower. It's bureaucratic. I think that people who are coming from, north of the border, they really need to be prepared for some frustrations with paperwork. I think that that's a common denominator and probably one that you can relate to as a broker as well. We have to make sure that everything is done correctly and it takes a little longer. And it reminds me a lot of some of the DMVs in the US. So.
Yeah. I remember years ago when they said we're heading into a paperless society. It's not happening anytime soon in Mexico.
In Mexico, no. I was approached by a franchise to have my agency become part of their franchise. And it ended up, we looked into it and it just simply wouldn't work because everything was cloud-based. And the notarios here, not ready for that yet. They want to keep with the original signatures and, the older way of doing things.
So what do foreigners love about Chapala? Like, why are they moving there? I mean, you said that, yeah, things are slower there, but like, what do you feel is the real charm that really you gravitate to?
So first of all, I have to admit I'm biased. I absolutely love it here. It's beautiful. It's tropical, but it's also a mile high. It's not humid. We're a mile high like Denver. We're on the same latitude as Hawaii. So you'll see the mountains even at this time of year, now that the rains have started, the mountains are so green and lush and it's just absolutely gorgeous. We're on the largest lake in Mexico. So between the altitude and the latitude with Denver and Hawaii and the largest lake, it keeps the area very cool and temperate. So we average about 74 degrees year round. Of course, it gets colder in December, January. Of course, it gets hotter. And our hot month tends to be May is our hottest month of the year. Well, I feel like that's perfect because think of all the places that you can travel to in May. There's a lot of places in the world. May is their best.
How hot does it get in May?
Probably about 95 is our high, 90, 95. And a bunch of the pansies here, and we complain bitterly about they're too hot because we're so used to it being so temperate. But
And you said it doesn't get humid even in May?
in May, it's not humid at all. It gets a little humid, like 35% humidity in east, where it's not bad, unless it's in the middle of a rainstorm, and then you could say 50% or something like that, being real. But it's just beautiful here. It's a slower pace. There's a built-in infrastructure. So people who come, who normally would perhaps be a little bit, hesitant to go into a place where they don't speak the language, they can come here and hopefully they do learn the language. I feel really strongly that that's important. But I know that there are people here who are older and they come here and they never learn the language and they don't have to. So in this area, they can get along and find friends and activities and shop and do all of that and not even have to speak Spanish. So it could be called Mexico Light. But the other thing that's nice about this area is that it doesn't have any kind of a history of tourism. So whereas Puerto Vallarta and other coastal places, they draw tourists. And Lake Chapala doesn't draw tourists. It draws people who are interested in a life, in living somewhere. Earlier, you and I were talking about how Puerto Vallarta is kind of an optional place because a lot of people want to buy a second home when they choose Puerto Vallarta. Well, it's beautiful there. I love Puerto Vallarta. I can understand why. It makes sense. This area, it can be a second home place, but for most people, it is their primary residence. So, you do have snowbirds and such, but a lot of people come here and they pick everything up lock, stock, and barrel, and they move here and they come and they plant their feet in the community and they just become a part of what's happening here. They get involved in things that they can volunteer, which gives them a greater sense of purpose in their life. I think that in the U.S., we get so used to being able to write a check to United Way or something, and we never see how our lives or that money is touching or affecting people. Well, here you can come and get involved with the elderly or with orphanages and some of the other things, and you just feel like you're making a difference in your life. So it's really not just about the weather and the lower cost of living and the infrastructure. It's about learning something new, which, with the language and the culture, you're going to learn new things here, whether you want to or not. So the people who come tend to be pioneering, and it gives them a chance to give back in a way that feels very real and meaningful.
Well, you said, people's primary residence, not so much like a rental investment or partiers that go there. So would you say the age demographics is typically a little bit older?
It has classically been retirees. I came here when I was 22, but my mom and dad came with me and they were also younger. They were in their 40s. But now we're seeing people who are coming who are much younger. We have people who are in their 20s and 30s who are coming with their families. Some of them are entrepreneurs. Some of them are working remotely. Some of them are just passing through. They're just, I think ever since COVID, everybody has realized that the world is a big place and that they don't have to necessarily stay put and work in their office and do the drop dead at your desk method of retirement. They can explore and do something different.
It's very interesting you said that there are a lot of families, like foreign families that are moving there. I've been having conversations with agents all throughout Mexico, and I asked them, I said, who are your clientele base right now? Are they mostly baby boomers retiring, Gen X? And they said yes, but they're also getting a lot of younger couples with kids. So it sounds like that's something similar happening in Chapala and Ajijic.
Exactly. Our average age is about 55, 60 as a buyer, 65 as a seller. So yeah, definitely seeing a trend in people coming who are younger.
So are there bilingual schools in Chapala, or are they sending people to Guadalajara? Are they sending their kids to Guadalajara?
There's many schools here in the Riberas area. So there's a couple in Chapala, there's a couple in San Antonio, and then there's several in Ajijic as well. So
where's San Antonio exactly?
San Antonio is in between Chapala and Ajijic.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And what does San Antonio look like in comparison? As architecturally, the neighborhoods, is it pretty similar?
It's pretty similar. I almost want to say it's similar to Ajijic and Chapala if you were to mix them up if they had a baby. That's kind of like what San Antonio would look like. It's a really pretty little town. It's a great area. It has some fabulous neighborhoods like Chula Vista. It's right on the edge of Mirasol and Riberas del Pilar before you get into Chapala. So yeah, it's a really nice town. Very quiet, except when they're having their festivals. Okay, so we have the fireworks going off. I don't know if Puerto Vallarta is like that, but we still have the traditional festivals with the cohetes that, go on till all hours of the night and the mariachi bands singing and all of that. So,
yeah, I mean, Mexico has a lot of holidays. The whole thing in Vallarta is we have a lot of Canadians. We have a lot of Americans. And of course, we have the Mexicans who live here. That's their country. And we wind up celebrating the holidays from all three. So every month, there are like a million different holidays being celebrated, which is wonderful. Sometimes a Canadian holiday, or it's a U.S. holiday, or it's a Mexican holiday, so it's wonderful. There's always something happening in the city. And of course, the fireworks, we see fireworks virtually every single night here in PV.
Do you know that there are over 5,000 registered holidays in the nation of Mexico?
I did. Wow. So sometimes there are multiple holidays in one day, right?
Yes. So yeah, and no, I mean, but it's vibrant, it's alive. And that's one of the things that's one of the things I love about it here is they have been so gracious, speaking as an American, they have been so gracious to us. They have 4th of July parties for us, Right. I mean, I don't know if they're having 16 de septiembre, the, Mexico Revolution, celebrations in the U.S., not to my knowledge, but I just feel like it's beautiful the way that they come together and they honor us and people are able to celebrate Canada Day and, all their different holidays, like you said, they do in Puerto Vallarta as well.
Well, one of the things I really love and appreciate the most about the culture here is they do celebrate life and joy and happiness. And even like the Day of the Dead, it's not a morbid thing. It's to honor, our loved ones who've passed away in a joyful, in a way, right? So it's not the cemetery and crying. It's just it's a celebration of their life, remembering them. So it's really, really beautiful. Something, Kristina, you brought up, all these different neighborhoods that I've never heard of, including San Antonio. So if you could share with us, what are some of the popular regions or neighborhoods in the Chapala, Ajijic area where you're seeing growth and where foreigners, like a lot of Americans and Canadians, where they're buying their homes, and where are they buying in these areas?
Yeah, I would say that our neighborhoods all tend to be mixed. They tend to be almost 50-50 foreigners and Mexicans. If you're talking about some of the developments or gated communities, Chula Vista is one that I had already mentioned about in San Antonio. And then there are on the art bypass, which we call the Libramiento. There are also some neighborhoods in there. There's El Dorado, Chula Vista Norte. El Dorado, I think, tends to be more of the people from the U.S. and Canada that live in there, but I know that there are Mexicans who live there too. And then La Reserva, Los Sabinos, some of those are really fantastic. There's a new one coming up, El Remanso, that's in just on the edge of West Ajijic. So, and that's going to be a fabulous development. But again, a lot of them are really, really great places to live. La Floresta is in high demand. I'm certain that you know about La Floresta from when you were here, because that's when you drive down the main boulevard. That's the area where you see when you're coming into Ajijic, and it's just the trees that are kind of creating an umbrella over the road. Yeah. A lot of so I'm sure you remember that, and it's still a very, very popular area. But most of the neighborhoods are pretty mixed community in terms of their demographics, which I think is a plus. I enjoy that. I like that, and I think that most people value that as well. Yeah.
Kristina, if someone has a budget of, let's say, between $300,000 and $500,000, they want a 2-bedroom house, preferably with some view of the lake, some water views. Is that realistic?
Yeah, they could even find a house with a view of the lake and a pool at that price point. Yeah, that's absolutely doable. $350 tends to be our median price right now. So going up to $500, if they could do that, then they would be able to get a view of the lake if that's what they're looking for. We've had a lot of people coming who are more interested in the view of the mountains now. So that's a little bit different, but I understand it too, because with the waterfalls, when they're running and the mountains are green in the rainy season, it's really beautiful. as a view.
Can you find anything between 2 and 300,000 for a house?
Yes. In fact, we have a house on the market right now that's $87,500. And
What do you get for $87,500? What does that look like?
it's a studio in a gated community that's on top of a pool house and has access to all the common areas in this little gated community, but it's adorable. It's 87.
How many square feet is it?
Now you're going to get me. I don't know.
Square meters. How many square meters? Do you remember?
I want to say that it's like 60 or 70 square meters. It's not very big studio, but
125 square feet.
right. Well, it comes turnkey though, so if you just want to move in and your toothbrush, then you can do that and it's ready to go.
Well, look, if somebody wants it's a quick little getaway place. It's a giant. I live there full time and it'll be great. I had an apartment, 650, 700 square feet, and it was fine for an apartment for the shit. And it's great,
For some short term, if you wanted to come down and just get away for winters in Canada or something, it's a fabulous little place and it's inside of a gated community. So it's completely lock and go. You wouldn't have to worry about security or anything. You just lock it up and head out.
So this gated community, what kind of amenities does it have?
It has the pool and you're asking me that. And I'm going, I'm not sure because I'm not the listing agent, but it is listed with our agency. So if you want, I can send you the link to that. It's called Casa Brandt. So yeah, I could send you that and you can look at that.
So if we're looking at spending between 200 and 300,000, what can we expect? What's realistic?
The most popular area, if you're looking in that price range, and you can look in other areas, but the most popular area to find a nice house or that price is probably Riberas del Pilar. So Riberas del Pilar is right outside of Chapala. It's not a town. It's a residential area that he has had commercial restaurants and markets and thrift stores and, where you can go antiquing and that kind of thing on the carretera or on the main boulevard. But the rest of the neighborhood is houses. I call it the Lake Chapala Garden District because it's big trees. And for a long time, people didn't build there. They had some water issues that they have been working on that have really been, to my knowledge, they have been eradicated. Any problems with that? Although you do have to filter your water. You have to filter your water there. So for $200,000 to $300,000, you can get a 2 or 3 bedroom house that has a nice yard for pets if you want to bring pets or you have kids, and a mirador. And many times, not always, but many times they have a view or at least a partial view of the lake. And many of the houses are also sold furnished. So
that's great.
It's a bar. Yeah.
Are these newer homes or are they older?
Both. But I would say they're newer. Most of them are newer homes.
Okay.
Riberas del Pilar for the longest time was just countryside. That's why there are these big trees and, wider streets. And it just was a more rural area outside of Chapala, and they began to develop it. So yeah, I would say it's newer homes than older homes.
And how long of a drive is it into Chapala from there?
5 minutes or less.
Oh, that's nothing.
Oh, no, it's right on the edge of Chapala. It's right on the border, and it probably takes 10 minutes to get into Ajijic Centro from there, unless there's a lot of traffic that day. So
you can't control that. In Puerto Vallarta, when foreigners purchasing a property, we have to have the title held in a trust. It's called a fideicomiso. In Chapala, what's the real estate purchasing process like? You guys don't need a trust over there, correct?
Foreigners can purchase by direct deed here, which is nice. They have the option of having a fideicomiso, which for some people makes more sense. But no, foreigners are absolutely able to own by direct deed here. They come and they get an SRE, which is through the Secretariat de Relaciones Exteriores. And
Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Mexico City.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just a formality to give them permission as a foreigner to reside here. So it's very easy, very, very easy.
And how long does it take to typically close? Let's say the title is clean, no funny stuff. How long does it typically take for them to close and get the keys?
Okay, so the fastest that we can close if everything is in order is 2 weeks. And what's typical is 4 weeks to 6 weeks.
Okay. And in Vallarta, we use escrow. Do you guys use escrow in Chapala?
We do. We have a couple of different escrow services that we've only just started working with. That's new to this area as of this year. I think Puerto Vallarta has been doing it much longer. So, but yeah, we're starting to work with Secure Title, TLA.
Yeah, we use them as well, and Armor Secure. So what are some of the misconceptions foreigners have about buying and selling property in Chapala?
I think that the misconceptions that people, first of all, we could get into the whole ball of wax about the misconceptions that foreigners have about Mexico in general, right? But one of the misconceptions I think that if foreigners have is that they could buy a house here and that Mexico could just arbitrarily take it away from them. I think that those situations primarily have occurred on the coast and have been people who have thought, hey, this is a fantastic deal. I'm just going to buy a house. It's oceanside and it's $20,000 and, suddenly somebody's taking off with their money, or they built a house on land that was not that person's to sell. I think one of the things that people really need to pay attention to here is making sure that they're using reputable people. Are they using a certified reputable agent and brokerage? Are they using a very reputable inspector to make sure that things are going well with the house and there aren't any surprises at the end? So I think that people just need to understand that, yes, be cautious. Be cautious. You want to be cautious anywhere that you're purchasing a house and know what you're buying and that there's a clear chain of title for the deed and everything. But I think my experience for people having misconceptions is that it's going to be dirt cheap because it's Mexico, right? Well, they're moving here from another place in the U.S., and there are homes that are absolutely less expensive than what you're going to find here at Lake Chapala. If you're coming from certain houses in the exterior of the U.S., if you're coming from Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, some of these places where you can still find a mansion for $200,000, you can come to Lake Chapala and you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But if you're moving here from Hawaii or Colorado or California, New York, the people who come here go, wow, that's really affordable. So I think it just depends on your perspective. But, the cost of things, and also just making sure that they're using people who are legitimate and professional and ethical and organized and certified. I think that people need to do that and not jump at any of those bait and switch deals that if it sounds too good to be true.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. And I think sometimes people get so excited. Oh my gosh, a piece of land on the water for $20,000, and they just they just hand the cash. They don't sign a contract, nothing. They don't hire an attorney, and they just kind of foolishly dive in. But like you said, if it's too good to be true, chances are it is. And absolutely, you have to have professionals on your side. That includes an agent, that includes a reputable real estate attorney to look at the title, to perform their due diligence. That's really key. I mean, don't leave your brain at the border.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I say. It's like, I don't understand it, why people leave their brains at the border. They would never do these things or believe that this could be possible back home. Why did they come here and think that, oh yeah, this will work? It doesn't work like that,
Yeah, no. So that's great. I mean, for a couple $100,000, people can get a nice house. And I do agree with you. I think there's a big misconception thinking everything in Mexico is virtually free. Look, the cost of living in general is a lot less in Mexico, but also there are neighborhoods, there are cities where the cost of living is higher. Like Mexico City is fairly expensive depending on where you go in Mexico City. And, Mexico in general, we do have multi-million dollar properties on the market, and we do have properties under 100,000, like you just said. That's a nice size studio. And the same thing in Vallarta. You can find something for around 200,000, and you can find something for $20 million. So, but what's nice is we have that range. And I think if you go to a coastal city in California, at least I'm from LA, you're not going to find anything for $200,000 near the water. But in Vallarta, a few blocks inland, you can find something for $200,000, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, it all depends on what you're looking for. When people ask me about it here, for example, why is land so expensive at Lake Chapala? I say it's because there's only a certain amount between the mountains and the lake that is saleable. The rest of it is ejido land, or federal zone land or indigenous land. So there's really so much. It's not like the urban sprawl that you see sometimes in places north of the border, or even in other areas in Mexico, or if you want to live in places that are like that, that don't have as great a weather, they don't have the coast like you have, then they certainly can find places in Mexico that are even less expensive. But I do think that Puerto Vallarta and Lake Chapala are among the most desirable places in Mexico to live.
Yeah. Well, some of the resort towns are now cities, and they do have infrastructure They've grown over the years. So the cost of living has gone up. But when you compare it to other parts in the United States, the cost of living has gone up everywhere. Let's face it. I don't think the cost of living has gone down anywhere. It continues to go up. But when you look at things, it's relative, and things are still more affordable here in general versus back in LA. At least I could talk about Los Angeles. Let's move on to healthcare. That's really important for our clients who are of a certain age, the baby boomers. And now we're getting a lot of Gen X in their 50s that are now thinking about retiring in the next 10, 15 years. So what is the healthcare like in Chapala and Ajijic?
The healthcare here is excellent. You do need to make sure that you're going to a doctor that you like and communicate well with, but there are 3 or 4 hospitals here. We have Riberas Medical Center, San Antonio Hospital. Then there's the Ajijic Hospital, and there's a hospital in Jocotepec. And among all that, there's clinics, all kinds of clinics everywhere. So it's extremely accessible to get good health care here. Plus, you're, again, 45 minutes to an hour into Guadalajara, which is considered a medical mecca.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for everything. And there's even more interesting, perhaps, is that in this area, because this area is, at such a nice altitude and it's so beautiful, there are a lot of people who come here and do holistic healing too. So it's not just allopathic medicine, it's land of more natural things and homeopathy and different, cutting edge treatments, stem cell therapy and that kind of thing. And it's all very affordable. So
do they have a lot of bilingual staff at these hospitals?
Yes, absolutely. Especially in the Ajijic area, most of the staff is going to be bilingual because they know that they need to cater to both the people that are foreigners here, plus the Mexican people. So they hire bilingual people. Like in my office, everybody in my office that works here, they're all bilingual.
Safety. That's another big topic that we deal with all the time. Very important for people. What's the safety situation like in the region now?
Safer here than I did in the US. I do think that you need to be aware of your surroundings. And I think that's important anywhere that you are. Don't be foolish. The biggest crime that we seem to have here is petty theft. If you have a bicycle and you leave it outside of your house overnight and you don't take it inside, that's a crime of opportunity. And I can't insist that it would be gone, but I feel like it's pretty certain that somebody would take that opportunity to snag a new bike and you would have lost it. But as far as violent crime, it's not very common here to have violent crime. And I feel safer here with my family walking at night, etc., than I did when I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, or in Fort Collins, Colorado, or, I think it's safer here. That's my perspective and the way that I feel. But I also know that some people they think that Mexico must be very, very, very dangerous. But that hasn't been my experience.
Yeah. Petty theft, things like that happen everywhere, I think. So you just have to kind of use common sense and, you leave your bike out. It's not chained. Of course, there's a good chance someone's going to take it. In LA, same thing. Things like that happen all the time, right? So if someone isn't quite ready to buy yet, they're sitting on the sideline, they're fearful, what would you say to them? Because I think so much of the U.S. media, every time they show Mexico on TV, it's, they show kidnappings and the cartel.
Have you ever noticed that all the movies about Mexico are in sepia tones? They make everything look orange and dusty, and the saloon doors and just crime. And I got to tell you, that drives me drives me crazy because that's not at all what it's like here. It's so green and beautiful and lush, and we have flowering trees and color. It's just gorgeous, mountains and waterfalls and ocean. But I think the thing is that to me, I've been back to the States recently. I'm getting ready to go back the end of this month, June, for a wedding in our family. And every time I go back, I feel like there's a low level rage in the people. It's very sad. Doesn't seem like the people in the US are in a good place right now. I know that politically they're feeling very polarized. I think that it's a chance to be able to come to Mexico and just kind of throw off some of that and start to look people in the eye again, have a conversation, and live in Mexico with the peace and the joy and the family and the culture and the things that we learn from the Mexico people. And that's their gift to us. That is the reason that I'm here. That's the reason that I came here. The reason I raised my children here for most of their lives. And I feel like it's just it's an important thing to realize that you don't have to live that way. It is a choice. I think that people often feel stuck. They don't realize that they could do something different, and they can. It's not that hard. And really, you can always come to Mexico or another country if that's where they want to be, and they can try it. If it doesn't work, they can go back. It's not the end of the world. So, but it's an extremely incredible experience being here and throwing off a lot of the negativity, the high inflation, just the political polarization right now and everything happening there. Mexico is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot of people say the same thing all throughout Mexico. I've been interviewing a lot of agents and expats that have moved. And the topic, usually for economic reasons, they're moving number one, because when they're retiring, the cost of living is just so high. People just can't live off of their retirement in the States for the most part. So Mexico has become a viable option, but more and more I'm hearing about the political turmoil and with what's going on, and people just don't want to live with that stress anymore. And it doesn't matter where you fall politically, which party you belong to. It's just like, people are just kind of fed up. They don't be just hammered with all that negative messaging continuously. And they just want to live a more peaceful, joyful life, right?
And they can. They can.
Yes. Yeah. And they have that option. Kristina, if someone wants to reach out to you and learn more about Chapala, the real estate, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Email me at Kristina@LakeChapalaRealEstate.com. My name is spelled with a K. Been doing that my whole life. Kristina with a K. It's Kristina with
like Daniel with a T?
Yes. I can relate. So it's Kristina at LakeChapalaRealEstate.com. And you can also email me. I also get info@LakeChapalaRealEstate.com.
Great.
So happy to reach out and help anybody if they're looking for answers to their questions, maybe seeing if this could be their next place.
Well, thank you very much, Kristina. We will put your contact information in the description of the podcast so people can reach out. And now I got to get back out there. It's been 15 years. It's been way too long. And with the new highway, I'll get there sooner than later.
What are you waiting for? Come on.
No.
The weather here is incredible right now because the rains have started. So it's nice and cool here.
Well, the rains have started here. It's hot and humid here. So I'm going to make my way in your neck of the woods.
Well, sounds good. Well, anytime. I'd love to see you. And so thank you so much for...
Thank you, Kristina. And I will be checking in with you soon, okay?
Right. Thank you so much, Taniel.
Have a good one.
Thank you too.
Your retirement in Mexico starts right here, and we're excited to be part of your journey. Every episode, we bring you the magic of Mexico, insider tips, and expert advice to help you take that next big step with confidence. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That helps others like you discover the endless possibilities waiting south of the border. Got a topic you'd like for us to cover? We'd love to hear from you. Send your suggestions to info@TanielChemsian.com. And remember, a life well lived isn't left to chance. It's created with intention. See you next time.